in my brain, I've wanted to kind of like I've been thinking, how do we start this? Do we just talk about and get it out of the way, the big elephant in the room or the big Dawn fan in the room? Have you? Do we do it? I think that's we have to be honest about the performance. This is the weirdest thing. I'm gonna be real critical. The technical performance is not great. It chugs. It's bad. There's been clipping issues when people are online. It like my favorite reaction is when it's their eyes go woo, and like people now admit it like a internet reaction when like from cartoons, eyes go long. People get randomly big. My son was playing because we both got Scarlet and Violet, and he got stuck in a door in a building that didn't load on the first day. And he was like, I'm going to lose everything. He was so upset. He was so excited for his... I'm like, hey, take a deep breath. We're going to just keep tapping A. And he did that for 5 minutes, and it finally loaded for him. But I was like, oh, man.
Lucky.
He had been about 3 hours in at that point. And his game has crashed on him. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it is he has autosave on. I've taken that off. And those issues, it's not... Eric said this to me. He goes... This probably shouldn't have the Nintendo seal of approval just yet.
Yeah.
Because we've always talked about it. That seal of approval means it is technically... You knew you were getting a quality game. Yeah. If you see that Nintendo seal of approval. And...
it's interesting. I was talking about that particularly, the quality control. And I've seen some misleading articles saying Nintendo this, Nintendo that. I'm like, this is not a Nintendo game. Nintendo published it. This is a
Game Freak game.
And what I think a lot of people don't understand is that Game Freak is not a first-party Nintendo developer. They are a second-party Nintendo developer in the way that Bungie is with Microsoft.
Yeah.
Nintendo has a majority stake, but they are also owned by the Pokemon Company and then Game Freak itself. So you've got 3 cooks in the kitchen. And I'll say this. Pokemon, the Pokemon Company, the largest portion of their profits, if you're looking at a bar graph, here's the games. The rest of this is plushies, not merch. Plushies only. So it's kind of unsurprising the sort of, I don't want to say lack of care, but I want to say like the sort of laissez-faire attitude. Let's just say they're like, it'll be fine. And ultimately, as somebody who I just checked, I have 114 hours in the game. Ultimately, yeah, it is fine. But the fact of the matter is, it still is a Nintendo product. It's published by them. And Nintendo never does anything less than absolutely rock solid. So it is pretty surprising to see it come out in this state. That said,
the fact that they responded to it, that's the first time when Nintendo's like, hey, there is an issue. We know that
they've never done
and the
that.
only reason why they said that is because there was a game-breaking bug in the competitive scene that if you did a certain sequence, the 100% KO moves would always hit. So there's these moves that like instant kill, but they're I think 20% accuracy, right?
Yeah.
And I was watching a video clip. The Sheer Cold is the ice one, and this guy just kept hitting it, and it made the online broken. If you had that combo, you would is instant win button. And I kind of wish I did it, to be perfectly honest. I was like, oh man, here's my chance to be awesome.
But doesn't that also kind of feel like the straw that broke the camel's back? Like the entire internet was like, this game is pretty chintz. Like you can see the technical issues are obvious, but still everybody was like all about it.
Yeah.
And you can see like, in the chat, Shane kids have to experience these crashes. Back in the day, you'd buy a Pokemon game and you'd feel solid about it back when we were kids. And now it kind of seeing like the amazing nature of Pokemon baked into this game, but just missing the technical prowess is a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
It's kind of unsurprising though, because I feel like they overreached with their ambition. When you look at something like Legends Arceus, which does a lot of what this game does, but it's all in separate zones, one town, all sort of like walled off and much more manageable. And in less than a year, with I'm guessing a separate team or the same team, they're like, hey, how about an open world, completely multiplayer experience online? I'm like, how?
That was a separate team.
With what? Yeah, that's shocking to me. And I'm saying it's not a surprise, but I'm really hoping they're able to. I mean, it's pointless for me. I've completed the decks. Everything to do in this game is done.
And Scarlet?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It only took 60 hours to complete the decks. Absolutely finished. I played another 40 hours after that because it was so engaging. But it's clear that, that's in spite of a lot of this other stuff. And so you have to wonder just how much more magical it could be and how much more worthy of the sort of legacy of that franchise it could be if it were finished, frankly, done.
Yeah, and I agree with you. To have Arceus come out just earlier this year, they didn't have to put anything out this fall.
Nope.
Like, it didn't feel like they needed to put anything out. They had built enough goodwill in that title to carry us for at least another 12, even.
I was shocked when they had a trailer.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. And in terms of like the studio, I think you're right. I think it was a separate team, but they were in the same production house or something like that. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Eric, you were going to say something. I know you were a big Arceus player too.
Yeah, no, and I think from my perspective, coming into this game, I had super high expectations. I think a lot of people did. I was expecting something Arceus mixed with Breath of the Wild, put it together. Hey, we've done it before. We've seen it before. It's come out great. It must be easy. And whoa, what's this? This is so. Is it? In my opinion, it's the most fun, engaging Pokemon game I've ever played. It's as a kid, that's what you want. You want to explore a Pokemon universe. You want to go wherever you want. You want to be able to, there's that. Oh, there's a shiny. And it's all happening around you, and it's really cool. I think we're playing a beta version. I think we're playing.
Like I said with Arceus? Yeah.
Well, that in a different way. Arceus was a very it functioned great. It loaded great. It performed great.
It's a finished game that shows the promise of what's to come, whereas this is what's to come that's not finished.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
It's a sort of I want to say this before I forget. I think what you said about the game, not being necessarily finished, but still like the best Pokemon has ever been, is kind of appropriate because the whole theme of this game is paradox.
Yeah, true.
Two truths existing at once, that it's the best Pokemon's ever been, and it's also wildly unfinished.
The music is amazing. The gameplay loop is the most satisfying gameplay loop Pokemon has ever had.
Yes.
So that's the thing. All that aside, because of how strong the gameplay is and how strong the sequencing can be, it's great. It's so good. Yeah. And I think when they get the DLC, they'll probably upgrade some stuff like they did with the last one. But here's the other thing. Game Freak has only made like Game Boy graphics, pixel art games forever. And this is kind of their studio is now adapting to these 3D models. They're kind of in their like 360 phase, right? They're always playing tech behind. It's never been about the tech. And I think they will listen. They're making changes. So the next entry, I think I'd be curious. They can't do this anymore, though. They can't be like, hey, the game's graphically not on par. And people want to blame the Switch. The Switch had Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
It's not the Switch.
It's Game Freak. And Game Freak needs to take ownership of that and step that up. And that's why I think they said the thing. That aside, though, that gameplay loop is so good.
Very, very
it went in my veins. Give it to me.
And what did I say? I compare it to Skyrim. Super buggy. I love Skyrim.
A legendary game.
Exactly. Right. And to that I say, hire the people that modded up Skyrim. Get like 3 dudes that modded up Skyrim. Put them in a room, and they'll fix Pokemon.
I sent a video to I think you, Eric. Someone modded Pokemon Scarlet on their PC already and put it at 60 FPS, and it's like, this looks amazing. Like, just Nintendo, hire this guy. Or
there's somebody. I think somebody found that there was a memory leak when you had save data to your SD versus your system. So they're like, there's definitely some like optimization issues that's causing this weird stuff. So I'll be interested to see what they do. But I would say they've already got a fantastic resource at their disposal, and that's Monolith Soft, who has helped on every gigantic open world game. They are masters of optimization.